So, First Crusade goes from here, makes their way over to Constantinople, then makes their way over to here, to Nicaea, and then they're defeated here and killed and captured. However, they're not the proper First Crusade. The proper First Crusade is still getting organized over in Europe and starting to make their way over towards Constantinople. And the First Crusade is led by a couple people. Go ahead and make a bullet, if you would please, and then write down the First Crusade is led by. So make a bullet and write down the First Crusade is led by. And these are 4 leaders of the First Crusade. I'm going to go through each one by one. So I'm going to talk about each one of these guys one by one here. Okay. At the end, the First Crusade is led by. We're going to talk about each one of these guys one by one. Number 1 is going to be Godfrey of Bouillon. So go ahead and make a 1 and write down Godfrey of Bouillon. So Godfrey is the first person to talk about. He's the Duke of Loire-Lorraine in the Holy Roman Empire. So he's from the Holy Roman Empire. He's a Duke of Loire-Lorraine, so he owns a duchy. He has a brother, Baldwin of Bouillon. At this time period, people are just named for the area that they're from. Okay, so just name for the area that you're from. So I would be, for example, just Abram of Columbus. So it's just you get a first name and then you get a name of what city you're from. All right. The Godfrey of Bouillon, he's traveling along not only with his brother Baldwin, but also with Hugh. He's the brother of the French king, so he's also traveling with him. Eventually, he's the first one to get to Constantinople, and when he gets to Constantinople, Alexius First Communis is like, hey, Godfrey, you can come inside my city walls, and I'll give your army food and so forth. However, I need you to promise me first that if you take over anything that I used to own in Turkey, that you're going to give me that stuff back. I would appreciate that. And Godfrey's like, no, I'm not going to give you anything back I take over. And then Alexis First is like, well, okay, well, you can't come inside my city then. I'm not going to give you any food. So then Godfrey tries to attack the city of Constantinople, which does not go well. I mean, Constantinople at this time period is the most heavily fortified city in the world at this time period. So it's a pretty big failure. Godfrey doesn't end up doing anything. And then after trying, he's like, all right, fine. I agree. I promise I give anything that I take over in Turkey, I'll give it back to you. And then Alexis First Communis is like, all right, cool. You can come inside. All right, so Godfrey's the first one to show up. He's a bit hot-headed. But Loire-Lorraine is right there. So that's the Duchy of Loire-Lorraine. That's a territory that Godfrey controls. So it's right next to the French. So the French kingdom is right here. So he's right next to France. This is his coat of arms down here in the bottom left-hand corner. In terms of military strength, he has about 1,000 knights with him. Knights being people that have a horse, they have full armor, sword, shield. All right, so they're people that actually have money and such. He has another 5,000 infantrymen. So guys that would look like this, for example. They would be people that would be supplied with weapons and armor from their lord. All right, so Godfrey would be the one that would be supplying them with weapons and armor. They have some training. They're not trained all the time. Like they don't have much training as knights. Knights kind of train year round. But the infantrymen he do have some training, and then he has another 2,000 peasants. They're just people that are just coming along with them because they're just coming along. All right, so that's the military strength that he has. All right. Next group to talk about is going to be Bohemond of Taranto. We'll write down his name in a sec. But Bohemond Taranto, you kind of see in this map, this shows us a map of where the Vikings went to during time. So the Vikings kind of started off in these green areas. So that's the place they first started off with. And then they moved in kind into the green areas are areas that they were attacked sometimes. It's not the areas they first went to. Sorry. So the green areas are areas they went to sometimes. So the Vikings first started off in these dark red areas, then the light red areas, then the orange areas, and then they got to the yellow areas, and the green areas just represent places that they sometimes attacked, sometimes they had contact. So sometimes they were attacked these places, but usually not a whole bunch. And you kind of see this yellow area down here. So what ends up happening in the 1000s is that Vikings from up here went around all the way over to here. They end up working as mercenaries in southern Italy, and eventually they end up kind of taking over the entire territory. They do end up launching an attack into the Byzantine Empire, which doesn't end up working. Well, they end up launching an attack into Greece part of the Byzantine Empire, which doesn't end up working, and eventually they get pushed out of there. But they do control southern Italy. And the guy who's part of this group is Bohemond Taranto. Yes, this guy has fought with Alexios First Communis before. Him and Alexios do not get along. However, he is going on the crusade. So go ahead and make a 2 and write down Bohemond or Taranto. So this guy is of Viking descent. He's also part of the Normans. So Normans, again, just being kind of the Vikings and such. And I said his family conquered southern Italy from the Byzantine. Now, Bohemond is not the person that controls the Duchy of Apulia. That's his brother. So Bohemond's brother controls the Duchy of Apulia. Bohemond simply has a small barony that he controls in southern Italy. And in 1085, that's when Bohemond was defeated in Greece by both Alexius Comines as well as the Venetians from Venice. We talked about Venice before and how Marco Polo was from Venice. Although this is before Marco Polo was born. His military strength is about 500 knights, about 2,625 infantrymen, and about another 875 peasants. And this is his coat of arms. So you see how he's a red lion there. Yeah, so that's Bohemond. Next person, number 3. Raymond of Toulouse. So Raymond of Toulouse is a very wealthy count. So he's a count, and that means he owns a county. However, he's a very wealthy count. He has a bigger army, personal army, than the King of France. So the King of France is in Paris, and the army that the King of France has, like the personal army of the King of France, so his own army he has before he has to ask other people for their armies. Raymond has a bigger army than him. So he has a very large army. The Pope really likes Raymond a lot. The Pope he is like official papal legate. Basically, his envoy is hanging out with Raymond. So Raymond's favored by the church. Church likes him a lot. The County of Toulouse is down here. So this is France. So you see France right here. And the County of Toulouse is down here. Right. So that's where this territory is owned by. Now, there are some issues going on with Raymond Toulouse before he goes on crusade. You see, Raymond Toulouse wasn't actually supposed to take over the county of Toulouse. That was supposed to be Raymond's niece. Her father, Raymond's brother, ended up dying, and she was supposed to take over the county of Toulouse after her father died. However, Raymond was like, nope, it's mine. So he took it over. She ends up going on to marry the Duke of Aquitaine. So she ends up marrying the guy who owns all this territory. That might be important later on in our story. We'll find out. Raymond Toulouse, his military strength. He has 1,200 knights. He may have slightly more than this. It was hard to find exact information. So we're going, he has 1,200 knights, but he may have more than that. He has 7,500 infantrymen. And he has another 2,500 peasants. And this is the coat of arms for Raymond of Toulouse. Number 4, Robert of Flanders. Go ahead and make a 4 and write down Robert of Flanders. So Robert of Flanders, he's the Count of Flanders. So he's the Count of Flanders. Him and Alexius, they get along pretty well. So him and Alexius First Comines, they both get along pretty well. Robert's father had actually worked with Alexius First Comines before while he was going on pilgrimage. So there's already familiarity between Robert and Alexius. So they're already kind of familiar with each other. Some of the troops that Robert is going to bring along with them is from the person that was right next to his territory, the Count of Holland. So he does have some troops that aren't necessarily his, but they're from another county next to him that he's also bringing along with himself. So he's from the Count of Flanders, so he's up here, right? So County of Flanders is up here. That's where he's from. For his military strength, he has about 600 knights, 3,200 infantrymen, and about another 1,000 peasants. And this is his coat of arms that he has. All right, so now we've set the stage. We know who our leaders are for the First Crusade. There is one other guy called Robert of Normandy, but then that would give me 2 different Roberts to talk about because then I have Roberts of Flanders and Robert of Normandy, and that would kind of be confusing. But Robert Normandy guy, you don't have to worry about too much. He's also coming along. He has a military force as well, but he's a really bad military commander, and politically, he's not very good. He basically sucks at both. So we're not going to really talk about him because it would just be me making fun of him the entire time about his incompetency. So we're not going to really worry about him. So that sets our stage with our 4 main leaders, Godfrey Bouillon, Bohemond Taranto, Raymond Toulouse, and Robert of Flanders. And next time, we'll talk about their war as they start to make their way into Turkey together. And we'll find out what happens when they start to fight against the Turks. Next time